mother-in-law. Suddenly, Eliza looked out onto the terrace, already ready for bed, and anxiously asked the guy what had happened. Killian cheerfully replied that everything was fine. He just wanted to get some fresh air before going to bed, and said that he had heard about new dresses for Eliza. Eliza explained that they appeared thanks to her mother. The Duchess always orders a lot of clothes for the girl, makes her feel uncomfortable. The young man replied to the girl that she should not feel awkward. Because the mother expresses love in this way, she has always been jealous of families with daughters. Killian said that the blonde beauty deserves gratitude in the form of dresses, because she takes care of the Duchess, spends a lot of time with her. The Duchess has a husband and 2 sons who have a harsh upbringing of real knights, so it is not surprising that the mother was often lonely. Lady Eliza nodded knowingly, and said that in that case mother would be even happier if she could buy clothes for her daughter-in-law. Killian was very surprised when he learned that his wife refused to buy new dresses and wanted to redo old outfits sewn before marriage. The guy thought that he would not recognize in his wife the former arrogant Edith Riegelhoff, who did not want to wear the same dress twice. The husband mistakenly believed that his wife was disgusted by the atelier offering dresses, but at the same time, Lady Edith chose outfits for her mother-in-law and Lady Eliza. Killian concluded that his wife was a hypocrite, because at the wedding her dress was vulgar, and now his wife dresses only in modest outfits. The guy remembered that Lady Edith, formerly known as an evil and vile girl, practically did not him off. Her statement sounded logical and intelligent. The young husband recalled that even in provocative situations, his wife continued to behave civilly and politely. Killian had a headache from the thoughts, and Lady Eliza said that the guy was deeply mistaken. His wife did nothing wrong in the atelier. The blonde girl could not believe that the young man still did not like his own wife. Killian replied that he thought Edith Riegelhoff was a lying snake that only temporarily lay quietly on the floor, but one day would raise its head and bared its fangs. In the morning, the maid Anna reported that the mistress's rouge and perfume were almost running out, and suggested that we call a perfumer and a cosmetics dealer. Lady Edith was puzzled but soon realized that sooner or later it was bound to happen. Replenishing cosmetics is a big waste, but fortunately she worried about the future and kept the gems removed during the alteration of dresses. The girl remembered that in real life she also saved money, but she never spent it, especially on cosmetics. In the ordinary world, the brunette often hid in the toilet to put on old lipstick. But now the girl realized that she was doing wrong. In her past life, she tried to hide the fact that she was not loved with makeup, but now she was reborn into the body of an aristocrat who had to pamper herself. Lady Edith asked the maid to invite a perfumer, and she thought to herself that it was time to learn how to spend money and buy luxuries. After a while, decorated jars with liquids of various colors and aromas appeared on the table of the girl with ruby hair. In front of Lady Edith and the maid stood the perfumer, inhaling the fragrance of a paper strip soaked in the perfume of the mistress of Ashley's rose. The perfumer assured the girl sitting in front of him that he would easily repeat the perfume in the same volume as the previous jar, and named the approximate cost. Hearing the price, the girl was seized with jitters. She calculated that the cost of a jar of perfume was twice as much as her food costs for a month in reality. Noticing the mistress's frightened face, the maid Anna took it upon herself to ask the perfumer about perfumes made from other varieties of roses. He called rose-based perfumes from the Titania family popular, but they are long-lasting and very rich, not suitable for a young woman. Lady Edith imagined the perfumer in the role of a pushy consultant from a cosmetics store. He also did not stop chatting about perfume. The perfumer said that he would advise the girl perfume from Tess Roses or Nathaniel's Roses. The fragrances would be luxurious and deeper than from Ashley. When Edith found out the cost of a jar of the same volume with the recommended perfume, she almost fell off her chair. The price is twice as high as the previous one. Lady Edith, holding back her emotions, said that she did not want to change the usual aroma so abruptly. The maid felt sorry for the mistress because Anna understood that Lady Edith deserved more, so she again intervened in the conversation with the perfumer. Anna suggested mixing the usual perfume from Ashley's Rosé with a new one from Nathaniel's Rose, because a note of deep aroma will not hurt a married lady. The perfumer called it an excellent compromise, because the cost of the resulting perfume of the same volume will be equal to the arithmetic average of 2 prices. Lady Edith was pleased but still bargained to get a discount, but the perfumer was against it, as he also wanted to make a profit. The girl explained that she did not want people to gossip about her large expenses after marriage. In return, Edith promised to become a regular customer. The perfume merchant was touched by such frugality and thrift, said that the Duke was very lucky with his daughter-in-law and made concessions, making a discount. After the perfumer left, Lady Edith sighed piteously and thought that too much money was being wasted in this world. Only perfume, rouge, and a brush for them were bought, but in the girl's soul the greedy toad was already crying bitterly. Edith recalled that in a past life she could not buy anything for herself because the thought of spending began to tremble her hands. The aristocrat reflected that she also looked pathetic now because she had money, but she simply could not allow herself to spend it. For a person who values his meager salary and constantly suffers from robberies from his own brother, any spending feels like a sin. Lady Edith happily reached out with the thought that in some time she would learn to spend large sums of money with ease. The girl thought that there are things in the world that can be enjoyed without money, and she came up with the idea of visiting the Sistine Room. Walking around the Sistine Hall, the girl had the feeling that she had rented an art museum. Lady Edith looked at the exhibits of various shapes and sizes and realized that no expensive perfume could compare with such beauty. The girl was amazed at the grandeur of the sculptures and the detailed painting of paintings resembling photographs. Most of all, she was interested in Monet's painting, which stunningly depicts reflected rays of light. The girl sat on the floor of the Sistine Room and thought that thanks to the transmigration of the soul into Lady Edith, she could observe various masterpieces up close. Edith was disturbed by a man's voice. She turned her head and saw her husband, who praised her original way of appreciating creativity. The girl said that she did not expect to meet anyone, and Killian mumbled that he wanted to see the works of art in the estate. The husband did not miss the opportunity to prick his wife, said that her father was not interested in art, and for the daughter, probably it is surprising that such a room exists. The girl did not fall for the attempt to start a conflict and replied that she was surprised and asked to pay attention to the painting, which depicts a warrior and a horse. Lady Edith reasoned that there are many emotions in the picture. The artist showed the cruelty of war and, in a man, the desire to end it. Edith said that in the picture there is a brave warrior who is not happy with the praise of people, because war is not a reason for joy, even if you have the advantage. Killian looked at his wife with a testing look and then said that the painting was dedicated to his grandfather's struggle in the war against the Yanok kingdom. Lady Edith apologized for not knowing the history of the painting, and Killian asked why his wife had come. She had not been interested in art before. Edith got up from the floor and replied that tastes change with age. Then Killian asked his wife about the presence of his favorite author. His wife replied that she had recently been interested in art, but the inquisitive husband could not believe that the girl did not know any of the authors. Edith began to suspect that her husband was trying to prick his wife again. She replied that she really did not know, because in her county they were not fond of art. During the conversation, the young people approached a painting depicting a sheep and a little boy in a sheet. When Edith took a closer look, she realized that the boy looked like Killian. The guy explained that in childhood he was a model for an artist who knew his father. The girl did not raise an eyebrow at what she had heard and continued to stare at the painting, and Killian questioned her for staring at it for so long. Lady Edith looked up from the canvas and calmly concluded that it was a small one, and Killian was furious when he heard this. The husband began to furiously prove to his wife that only his head was depicted in the painting and the body belonged to someone else, but she only nodded indifferently. The guy did not calm down, explained that the noble son could not be naked in front of the artist, but the girl only coldly said that everything was clear to her. Killian became nervous, offended by his wife, and left the Sistine Room, shouting to Edith that it was impossible to discuss art with her. The girl shrugged her shoulders and thought that her husband should have been upset, because it was just a joke, especially since he probably had more now. Lady Edith walked through the flower greenhouse, enjoying nature and the wonderful weather, and wondering how lucky she was to be reborn in this body. Aristocratic life was calm. The sun shone brightly almost every day. A cool summer breeze blew and the air was clean and fresh. The Popadanka has long been accustomed to the world, where you need to do a minimum of work and have a lot of free time to enjoy life in the duchy. You can visit the Sistine Room, which is located inside the mansion, at least every day, and you can eat chic dishes during each meal. The girl with ruby hair reasoned that she did not establish relationships with all the book characters, but there are those who look with warmth and respect. For example, the maid Anna. Baron Renan Filch came into the greenhouse with many scrolls and was surprised to see Lady Edith, but she explained that every morning she went to some part of the estate for a walk. The girl with ruby hair thanked the blonde man for telling him about the many interesting places in the mansion during the tour. Lady Edith boasted that she had been to the Sistine Room many times, then inundated the Baron with questions about whether he liked the weather and how long he had eaten. Renan Filch said that he had a lot of work to do, but he would definitely meet Lady Edith later. The girl waved after the departing Baron. After that, Renan stopped for a moment and looked anxiously at Killian's wife and thought that nothing should happen yet. Lady Edith made her way through the trees to a place from which there was a beautiful view of the training ground, the real goal of her daily walk. She looked at her husband and mentally noticed that he was in great shape today, his muscles wet with sweat glistening in the sun. The girl thought that although she watches the workout every day, she still does not cease to admire her husband's broad shoulders and sculpted chest. Lady Edith thought that Killian was very annoying in his character and actions, but there was no point in denying that he was insanely handsome, better than Cliff. The body of the main character looks angular and too typical, while the body of the spouse is much more liked. It looks real and embossed. Edith thought it was time for her to stop enjoying the view and leave this place if she didn't want to be late. Suddenly, Killian looked up and smiled broadly, at which moment Lady Edith thought that all was lost. Her husband had noticed her secret place. The bare-chested guy called out to Eliza, waved his hand, and Edith sighed in disappointment, because she didn't even know that her husband could smile like that. During the day, Lady Edith worked with the paperwork and realized that she had never thought she could go crazy about a man. The girl found an excuse for herself and remembered that in her past life she had never met such a beautiful man. Because of obsessive thoughts about her husband, Edith could not concentrate on work, but she had to, because she had documents about weapons and armor in her hands. The information about the state of the family's weapons interested the girl. She thought that she was now trusted if she was entrusted with such serious documents. Suddenly, Lady Eliza appeared next to her and asked what the girl with ruby hair was doing. The answer stunned the blonde beauty. The daughter-in-law said that she was sorting the data from the documents into tables, but the blonde girl did not understand what Edith was talking about. Then the girl with ruby hair guessed that in this world they do not know the concept of a table, and began to explain, although she was surprised at her ignorance of the concept. Lady Erin had told the blonde girl that the tables were good because they were better understood, but Eliza didn't like the story. She said that people would not understand anything from the tables. The Duchess noticed the talking girls and admired how wonderfully Eliza helped Edith. Eliza beamed with mother's praise, and Edith thought that this situation was extremely unfair, for it was she who had explained the concept to Eliza, not the other way around. The girl thought that in this the book world does not differ from the real one. In her past life at work, there were also situations when colleagues set her up. Immersed in the emotions she had experienced, Edith plucked up the courage to call out to Mother, asking her opinion about the tables. Of course, the Duchess did not know about them. The daughter-in-law began to tell her mother-in-law about the structure of the tables, where the most basic information that is easy to perceive is briefly recorded. During the explanation, Edith glanced at Eliza, who was standing alone to the side, and thought that she had done wrong now and framed the blonde. The girl with ruby hair thought that on the one hand, Lady Eliza had forced her, but on the other, she had promised herself to renounce the image of the villain. Matushka thanked her daughter-in-law and did not cease to admire the proposed method of structuring important information. The mother-in-law said that from today, this new convenient method will be used in their work with various papers. The Duchess asked Edith to make tables on all the documents she was currently working with, so that anyone could look at them and learn how to do it. The daughter-in-law was pleasantly surprised by the request, because now a lot of work awaited her, but still, the girl was glad that the idea was appreciated. And Lady Eliza only watched what was happening with sadness and resentment. After a while, Killian came into the office to visit Mother. The Duchess decided to show the new way of organizing information in the form of a grid, proposed by his wife, and Eliza decided to observe it. Killian looked through the papers with the tables and did not believe that Edith Riegelhoff had come up with such a method because it was really effective. The Duke's son praised the innovative method of structuring, said that it is understandable and convenient for most, but was able to find a flaw in the method. The guy explained that in a condensed form, secret information about the affairs of the duchy is easier to sneak out of the castle walls. The Duchess realized what was behind the claim and asked her son to be kinder to his wife, because she also entered into a marriage of convenience against her will. The dialogue between mother and son was interrupted by a knock on the door. Baron Renan Filch appeared in the doorway. The fair-haired guy apologized for interfering, because he did not know that the master was also here and said that he could come back later. The Duchess asked him to stay and showed him the method of recording data from documents invented by Edith. Killian watched with displeasure. When Mother switched to a conversation with the Duke's assistant, Killian came closer to Eliza and asked her opinion about his wife's work. Eliza replied that Mother was right, that she admired her daughter-in-law. The girl was really smart and capable. If she did not know how to do something, then she could learn quickly. The girl said that Killian's wife is well educated. This has a positive effect on the quality of work. Eliza cannot boast of this. Sometimes it seems to the blonde that she works with the Duchess only because she has been living side by side with her for many years, because Eliza does not even have an education. The young man thought that if even a blonde girl was jealous of Lady Edith, then his wife's mental abilities were really at a high level. The guy remembered the reasoning for the Sistine Room, became suspicious, because he realized that the reason for his wife's intelligence was not in education. Vulgar and stupid Edith Riegelhoff does not look like a real version of herself. Then Killian realized that the girl was just perfectly prepared. One early morning, just as it was beginning to dawn, Killian knocked on Lady Edith's room. The girl did not expect to see him at all. Edith found herself wearing a bathrobe and a nightgown, regretted that she had not changed into daytime clothes, and began to guess the reason for her husband's spontaneous visit. Killian's wife suggested that she was caught peeping while walking, or that Lady Eliza was upset about the incident with the tables. The girl with ruby hair allowed the guest to go deeper into the room and sarcastically asked if he had come early in the morning because he missed him. Secretly, the young wife hoped to hear a positive answer, but the husband replied that he understood his wife's impatience and intended to go straight to the conversation. The girl was visited by the thought that every time she sees her self-confident husband, she can barely hold back jokes about him, because she will not be able to beg for forgiveness. Lady Edith understood that her husband was about to scold her, so she tried to delay this moment and brought up the topic of the wonderful weather outside the window. Killian's wife noted that the wind was still cool, but for sure it would warm up when it fully bloomed and the sun came out. The guy listened patiently. But when the girl with ruby hair took hold of the window handle to open the window and let a fresh stream of air into the room, her husband's nerves gave out. The young man approached Edith from behind and, leaning close to her, slammed the window and said that she had rather primitive ways of protesting. Killian whispered in his wife's ear that he had exposed her. Edith had not ordered dresses from Mother's favorite atelier because she simply did not like them. The guy said that he could not just like that. Edith Riegelhoff, who was known as a lover of changing outfits like gloves, left the atelier empty-handed. The girl mentally replied to her husband that she had not ordered anything because she wanted to dispel the image of a wasteful and outrageous girl. She didn't understand how Killian could find the reason for the hatred in this, but she realized that this was just the tip of the iceberg of resentment. The husband asked his wife to speak out directly and stop hiding something. Then Edith's feeling of resentment flared up like a match. She pushed her husband away. The girl shouted that the guy did not know her at all and the suspicions were empty, because if she did not like the atelier, she would have found another one and tempered the outfits there. Edith emotionally said that it became obvious that Killian was just looking for reasons to hate his wife and convince himself that the fault lay with her. The girl shouted that she had understood everything at the wedding because not a day had passed without her husband accusing her of something, thus finding peace herself. She kept saying that he was behaving like a coward, but it was time to realize and accept that he was not the only victim in the current situation. The young man looked dumbfounded at the enraged interlocutor and then grinned and said that he did not believe her emotional eruption of feelings. Killian recalled that this marriage took place because of blackmail and a threat towards the duchy, but Edith protested because she did not do it personally. But he said that Edith came from the family of Count Riegelhoff and therefore was not too different from his relatives. The girl was taken aback and realized that for the people in the castle and beyond, she would forever remain one of the sneaky family with a bad reputation. Edith told her husband with sadness in her voice that he knew absolutely nothing about her. Then Killian paused, tempered his ardor, and decided to leave. Finally, her husband told his wife that he had heard Mother complimenting her work, so he advised Edith not to be cunning or do anything suspicious. After the conversation, Edith squatted down, hugged her knees, cried with resentment like a child, and thought that this was not the first time this had happened to her. Wiping away her tears, she thought that she did not want to stay here any longer for the pleasure of luxury. The girl wanted to come up with a plan to get out as soon as possible. Killian returned to his room and found that he was sick. Dope appeared in his head. Perhaps it was because of the aroma of roses that filled his wife's room. The young man tried to analyze in his head a recent conversation with his wife, but he had a severe headache and he did not know what to think now. The guy always perceived the girl as a typical heiress of his father, the cunning and mean Count Riegelhoff, but in the morning Edith never mentioned his name. Before Killian's eyes was a picture of Edith sadly and calmly saying that he did not know her. The guy could not guess what was meant. Suddenly, a woman's pleasant voice called him. It was Eliza. She anxiously asked the guy how he felt because he looked pale. Eliza put her hand to Killian's forehead. He smelled the faint scent of violets and thought that the blonde girl herself was like a wildflower, alive and simple. The blonde said that the young man had no fever, and he finally understood the cause of the malaise. He inhaled nasty perfume from roses. Killian mentally concluded that Edith was just pretending to be a decent girl, but she was a spy and a traitor sent by the Count of Riegelhoff. The young man hugged Eliza and said that he had just met a deceitful and unhappy girl today, so he felt bad. The fair-haired beauty advised the Duke's son not to speak so rudely of Lady Edith again. That same day, the maid Anna came to the mistress's chambers to see if she had an errand, and the sad Lady Edith stood at the window, digging through her memories. In a past life, when the girl was sad, she bought a large glass of Americano and went mindlessly wandering around the city. Lady Edith asked if she, Anne, could go for a walk with her, and the maid replied in the affirmative and offered to warn the Duchess. The girl, accompanied by a servant, went outside the manor for the first time and was worried because she knew nothing about the territory surrounding the castle. Lady Edith was a little embarrassed when she heard Anna's question about the purpose and direction of the walk, but she was able to answer that she had not yet gone alone to the main street. The mistress said that she was waiting for help from the maid in this matter, and Anna was only glad to have the opportunity to help her mistress. The maid advised Lady Edith to determine the business she wanted to do so that she could choose the direction of the walk and the destination. Anna thought for a while and began to list to the mistress possible options for places to visit during this walk. The maid told me that there were good jewelry shops, a professional atelier, and a dessert café on La Belle Marie Street. Anna spoke about Darcis Street, where there are theaters, museums, art galleries, reliable banks, and the most famous pastry shop. The maid told the story of the Peridot confectionery. There's a queue at its walls before the opening. Everyone is eager to buy desserts here. Lady Edith praised Anna's erudition and asked to show the location of a good jeweler, because it is not bad to know a proven place. Anna named 3 jewelry stores that she could recommend. Lady Edith was surprised at such knowledge. The girl guessed that her maid was created for the convenience of the writer, because she is an encyclopedia character explaining the intricacies of the world. Standing at the gate of the estate, Anna reminded the mistress that they had not yet decided on the place to go, so Edith called the street La Belle Marie. Lady Edith and the maid came out of the jewelry shop with a huge wad of money from the return of the jewels taken from the dresses during the alteration. Anna said that although the pebbles were small, the price for them was high, and suggested that they go to Darcis Street to visit the bank. As she left the bank, Lady Edith threw up her hands in joy and shouted that she had finally finished all her business. She was a little worried about how the banks worked, but setting up a bank account turned out to be much easier than she thought. Lady Edith told Anne that now that the money was outside the castle, she felt at ease, because she knew who had been thrown out of the duchy. The girl apologized because almost all the time of the walk was spent on doing important things, and offered the maid to choose a restaurant where the food was delicious. Lady Edith cut fish in delicate batter with spicy sauce and reasoned that having a financial airbag, she could fulfill her dream. The girl thought about her future escape and asked Anna about the ways of traveling for commoners who do not have personal carriages. The maid replied that such people rent a carriage or pay for seats in the cargo hold of the train if there is no money for seats in the passenger car. Anna told the mistress that the freight car was like a cart with a lid, that it was very cramped and shaky because the seating density was too high. The maid said that it is possible to get to the local town if you take a train at the southern gate, but rental prices are not always affordable. Anna told the mistress about the stables with fleas, in which people sometimes have to spend the night, and wiped her mouth with a napkin after a delicious dish. Lady Edith thought that Anna was in the service of the Ludwig family, so she would gladly inform them about her thoughts about escaping, so she decided to stop this conversation. The girl thanked her maid for keeping her company on the walk and helping her with her business. Her mood improved significantly. To answer the rest of her questions, Lady Edith had to spend several days in the library reading books on various subjects. She wondered if she would be able to do a new business if she had read several books on the subject. His thoughts were interrupted by the appearance in the doorway, who said that the Duchess was looking for the girl because the jeweler had arrived. Edith was shocked by the words she heard, because according to the plot of the novel, They meant the beginning of the episode in which Lady Edith was humiliated. In the novel, the scene of Edith's loss and the confrontation with Eliza begins with a visit from the jeweler from the Opalit store, who visits the estate every season. Almost all members of the ducal family settled in the living room and paid attention only to the blonde beauty. Lady Eliza felt uncomfortable that Lady Edith had been left out. The blonde asked everyone present to stop and pay attention to the ruby necklace and suggested that the jewelry would suit Edith. But Edith did not appreciate the initiative and said that she did not like the ruby necklace at all because it looked plain and simple. The girl with ruby hair voiced the guess that Eliza wanted to offend Edith, saying that the unsightly jewelry was right for her. Eliza said that she did not mean anything bad, but Edith advised not to worry, because she always knew that they were talking to her in an ironic tone. The arrogant girl casually noted that the rest of the jewelry that Eliza was looking at took a liking to her. Then, Cliff, the main male character, bought up all the jewelry shown to his sister, and Edith was left with the same nondescript necklace. Edith sat on the sofa in the living room and thought that today's visit to the jeweler should be more positive than an identical episode in the novel. As in the book, all the members of the family, except for the Duke, were animatedly talking among themselves, discussing jewelry, but Killian's wife did not participate in the conversation. Edith felt lonely and noticed that today was a stranger day. The Duchess ignored, although she liked her daughter-in-law's advice. The wife looked at her husband and recalled that she did not want to come here at all, because after that incident she felt awkward in his company. Killian offered Lady Eliza to buy another precious piece of jewelry, she protested, and then called out to Edith and pointed to a ruby necklace. The girl with ruby hair looked at the necklace and was amazed at its beauty, and Eliza advised Edith to try it on. The girl reached for the jewelry, but her hand was pushed by another hand, and Edith looked up at Killian, who was about to remove the necklace from the mannequin. The husband took the necklace and told his wife to turn her back. Killian's face spoke of an acute reluctance to show gallantry towards his wife. Edith did not understand why the young man suddenly became so attentive and gallant, but she realized that the reason was the presence of her mother-in-law nearby. Everyone looked at Edith with admiration, so she decided to play along with her husband, pretend to be a loving wife, and asked Killian's opinion about the necklace. At first, the guy was confused by his wife's courtesy, said that the jewelry looked good and asked the jeweler for the bill for it. Lady Edith smiled without pretense, for this was the first gift from her husband, and she jokingly thought that she would make a lot of money for selling the jewel. Such a gift made Killian a wonderful husband, so Cliff, out of jealousy, promised to buy his sister all the other jewelry. The Duchess objected to her son that in this case the daughter-in-law would not get anything else, but the girl said that one necklace was enough. Lady Edith realized with horror that in no case would she sell the necklace given to her husband, even if she found herself in the most deplorable condition.
Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.